but 6 years of challenge racing, and knew that there was going to be the last XX car was a 599 XX, most of you I'm sure know, and I knew when I was fortunate enough to get to purchase a LaFerrari that they would make an XX car of that, so I raised my hand pretty early, indicating an interest in it, and so little did I know that it was going to be available the same year that I took delivery on the LaFerrari. So my wife said, "Really?" But you know, these chances with Ferrari don't come around very often, as you know. So I said, "Yes, I'm in." And so I took delivery on this car in August of 2015. Towards the end of August. So the shakedown was at Fiorano. There were 3 cars delivered. If you follow these cars on Facebook or on Twitter, you'll know that the Google exec Ben Sloss and his wife took delivery on one, and then Jean-Claude Sada, who's also a customer here, took delivery on one, and we were all 3 there at the same time. They delivered those 3 cars at the same couple days. We did our shakedowns together. So anyway, it's I'll answer any questions that you have about it. The XX programs is there's a lot of talk and a lot of misinformation about it, but most people know about it and have the right information about it. It's in this particular program, and I guess it was the same way with the other cars. It's kind of a technological test bed for Ferrari. So they ask you to sign an agreement to leave the cars with them for a couple of years until the technology gets out of date. And so I'm in the downside of my 2nd year. After that, you can stay in the program. They'll keep the car and support it at all the events that they schedule throughout the year, or as some people have done with their 599s and FXXs, you can bring them and get somebody to support them and keep them and do your own track events. And they schedule, I just got the calendar for next year, which is really a cool calendar of tracks. You get to go to some real bucket list tracks and drive these cars. They schedule 6 or 7 events, I think 6 events plus the finale every year. The calendar starts in March. It did last year in March as well. This year in March as well. It starts in March in 2017, and then runs right up, spaced out till the finale, which will be, it's a to be announced spot every year, typically in November, or in this case in December this year. So the stickers on the windshield, across the top of the windshield, are technical inspection stickers. So you can see it has the name of every track and the date that you were on that track across the top of the windshield. They're sort of a badge of the genealogy, I guess, in a way, of the car. So guys leave those stickers on the cars, and if you do this long enough, you end up with a couple of rows of those stickers, maybe or more. Ferrari totally supports it, so it's there, it's kept over. Have any of y'all been to the factory? So if you have, you know, if you were there at the right time when F1 wasn't there. Now they've moved F1 out of, it was right next door where they keep these cars. Now they've moved it into a brand new building, and some of you may have seen that. I haven't been in that yet, but hope to. I think Scott Obenchain was in that building maybe when he was over there this last time. I hope to get in there maybe the next time I'm over there. But in the past, if F1 was there, they didn't let you come over there, but now they're moved, and so it's a lot of times if you're doing a factory tour, you get to go over there where they store these cars, all the XX programs cars, plus the F1 Cliente cars. And so that's all sort of a big group, even though they're sort of segregated in separate garages, and they keep and support these cars, send a factory support team with the car everywhere it goes, and those of us who are blessed enough to get to do this just drive in, suit up, and fly in, suit up, and drive the cars, and have fantastic support.
Do they have F1 cars for sale after each season, by the previous season?
You can can buy them. They're generally, I think, 2 years old. 2 years seems to be a magic number for technology with Ferrari, so you can buy them after 2 years old.
And then it's the same as this, the Ferrari, they just keep your car, and they just support it.
Yeah, I guess there's somebody here, if Nathan was here. Nathan's not here. Nathan is the resident expert on all this stuff. So I guess if Nathan was here, he could tell you, I guess there are probably people in the United States that can support those cars, but people who have them normally leave them there. If you go in there, it's unbelievable how many they have. They have them stacked on top of each other. They're client cars in a big, long garage. And those technicians that are over there, they're cross-trained a little bit, but they mostly stay over on the F1 side. And I'll share this with you. My son and I were over there recently for an introduction for the, it's okay if I say this, the La Ferrari Aperta, and preview of that. And so it was his first trip to the factory, so I took him over where this car was stored. He had just gotten back from Hockenheim. And so I was walking through the F1 garage, Clante garage, with the technical director, and one of their technicians that I've gotten to be friends with is always saying, hey, you need to come buy an F1 car and come over and drive to F1 Clante. And this technical director said, yeah, he said, you know, a lot of times people buy these F1 cars and they don't really understand what it costs to buy these. They buy them first and then they figure out what it costs. But he said, you know, just for openers, every 1,500 kilometers, it's $250,000 to go through the engine. $250,000 euros, by the way, €250,000 to go through the engine.
What about fitting in it? That would be the other issue.
Yeah. Well, trust me, if you want to buy one, they'll fit you in.
They're like, we have hacksaw, duct tape, we're good.
Yeah, I got to actually, our first event last year was in Jerez, Spain, and Ricardo Vega, who is a gentleman from Mexico that owns Ferrari of San Antonio, that some of you remember, Enver Cava. Enver runs that dealership now for Ricardo. Ricardo was there with his Schumacher car, and his son, by the way, 17-year-old son was driving it at Jerez. And at dinner, Nathan and I were at dinner, and I said, hey, Ricardo, would you mind if I just sat in that car? Oh, he said, you can drive it. Just drive it tomorrow. And I said, no, Enver knows where I live. I'm not going to. I don't think I'm going to drive that car, especially on that track. It was a fairly tight track. But I did sit in it, and the technicians who were anxious for me to buy one said, oh, no, we can adjust all of this, and you can fit in here. And I said, no, this is fine. I think I got my hands full with this. So anyway, I said, what if you damage a nose cone on that car? And he said, they're about €40,000. The nose cone. So it's a fairly expensive, most expensive part of car racing, I guess, that you can get into. Most notable about this car is most of you probably know this, but it's 1,050 horsepower. It's 870, I think, out of the V8. The rest of it's out of the electric hybrid part of it. The first thing I noticed when I got in it, because the seat cushions, and I will tell you, if anybody wants to sit in it and have a picture made, I'm happy for you to do that. The seat cushions are removable. The belts kind of hold them in, and then of course when you're sitting on it, you're holding it in. But they are custom made, so the first thing that we did on the shakedown weekend was get in the factory-owned one, and they poured the chemical mixture in there, and it goes down and forms all around your posterior. And the first thing I noted when I got in it, having been the 5A challenge car for 6 years, was the absence of a roll bar. And that's I always have to kind of contort myself to get in the challenge car. But getting in this car is just like getting in the La Ferrari, and all of the structure of roll cages in the monocoque chassis is all engineered into it. So it's a very, very comfortable car to drive, a very easy car to drive, but as you would guess, it's a very crazy, powerful car to drive. So it's
electronic throttle, or did Ferrari go with cable?
I'm sorry?
Is it cable driven or electronic throttle?
I'm sure has a
fly-by-wire?
It's Paul.
I think it's fly-by-wire.
It's a pulsometer, I think.
I'm almost positive.
It's
Yeah.
fly-by-wire. Yeah. So It's a pulsometer, right? there's a technician back there. Anyway, the KER system on this car, different from the LaFerrari, which is just there. It's all the time. There's nothing you can do with it. On this car, it can actually be manipulated. Not, I don't think, like F1, but sort of in the same vein as F1. So when you look inside, you'll see towards the bottom center, there's a knob that says KERS. And it's got 4 modes in it. The one furthest to the right is fast charge, and so it's exactly what it means when you use a lot of the KERS power, which you can tell off of a charge indicator on the dash, and you use most of that. You can use that power pretty fast if you put the car in qualifying mode or in manual mode.
Death wish mode.
It'll drain the power pretty fast. You can get a lap or two out of it, and then you've got to drive a half a lap or so in the fast charge mode. And they always want you to bring it in at the end of the session in the fast charge mode to charge it up as much as you can.
So it doesn't just charge under braking?
It's kinetic energy recovery, right?
Okay,
So it does under braking, and I think there are some other factors that contribute to the charging of the car. And then then it has you'll note that there's a mode that says LR, and that's long run, and that's what most people drive it in most of the time. It's the one furthest to the left, and you get not the maximum power out of it probably, but most of the power out of it. On the steering wheel, where on all the modern Ferraris, I think since the 430, I can't remember on the 360, is it the horn buttons are on the steering wheel?
Yeah.
Not on the 360, starting with 430, right?
Yeah.
And so in place of that on this car, it didn't have a horn, of course. You'll notice 2 red Ks on it. Well, when you put the car in manual mode, those red Ks are for, you can control, when you brake in manual mode, the KERS system disengages. And so when you're back to full throttle at the apex of the turn, you push that button at the same time, and then you get the maximum power available out of the hybrid system or the batteries that are in it.
This diffuser looks static too. It's not the actuated diffuser like the regular car.
Yeah, there's a lot of movable stuff underneath the car. Some things going on underneath the car that you don't see. But you're right, it doesn't have the diffuser like the LaFerrari or the 488 has.
Can you notice a difference?
I wish I could tell you I was that good. No, I can't tell the difference in it.
Should have brake bias. Can you adjust brake bias on the run?
I suppose you can. These guys set the cars up. This car's already set up for Daytona because they knew it was coming up here, and so they told me that they would set this car up first so it could come up here because they'll be setting up the rest of the cars. They're going to be, I got the entry list the other day. I think if anybody's going to Daytona, they're going to be 15 or 16 of these cars there, plus the 599s, some FXXs, and then the F1 Planeta cars.
Have you driven any of the other XX cars?
I have not. I've ridden in a 599 XX as a passenger. I've not driven.
Dramatic difference?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll always tell you, we're on the track sometimes with 599 XXs, and a couple of my friends drive them. And John Lisich, who's also getting one of these cars. The last 2 of these cars will be delivered next year. And one of the guys is a USA guy, and he said, I saw you come around the turn onto the front straight behind me, and he said, I cannot believe how fast you caught me and went around. And so they are by far, aside from the F1 cars, which are stupid fast, right? They're the fastest car on the track.
John, this is kind of an off-the-wall question. Tell a great story, a fun story, about owning this car either off the track or on the track.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you a scary story. When we went to the finale of Magellan, it was my 3rd time in the car, and did quite a few laps at NOLA, in October, in September, then we went to, September, October, early October, I think, then we went to the finale at Magello. I'd raced at Magello before, so I knew the track, but, I got to the throttle a little bit early on this car, coming onto the front straight. It's a down, if anybody knows that track, it's a left turn, downhill carousel, I got to full throttle a little before I got my hands unwound a little bit too much, so I rotated the car and went off the track on the grass. And fortunately, it was a long way to the barriers. So it got my heart rate up, I can tell you. No, it's a car that you can't wipe the smile off your face when you're driving it. I mean, you're thinking, how lucky can I be that I'm the guy that gets to drive this car? It's just an amazing car. And I've had the really good fortune. I met Mark Genet when I first started doing Challenge, and had developed a bit of a friendship with him. And so when we went to NOLA, he was there. He only does F1. If anybody knows Mark, he's the now Ferrari's reserve F1 driver, so he's at all the races. Kimmy or Bell gets sick, he's in the car. So Mark and I become really good friends, and so I'm the only guy that Mark comes over from F1 and drives this car. He shows me the racing line at all the tracks, and I get to ride with him in the right seat. Another fun experience I had is when we did the shakedown. Esteban Gutierrez was there. He drove for Ferrari until he went to Haas, and so he was there driving a Barrichello V10, which sounded, by the way, unbelievable on that track. And we had lunch together, and he knows Ricardo Vega because he's from Mexico too. Nathan and I were talking to him, but anyway, he was there, and I asked him if he'd ever driven one of these cars, and he said no. And I said, would you like to drive it? He said, yeah. And I said, well, I'll let you drive it if I get to ride in the right seat. So I did a couple laps with Esteban at Fiorano in the car. I'm not sure what else to tell you about it. It's just a lot of fun. It's a real honor to get to own the car. I tell people I'm just the lucky guy that gets to drive it. And it's fun. I enjoy sharing cars. I think when you get to buy these cars, if you're lucky enough to get to buy Ferraris, you have a responsibility to share it with people, and I enjoy sharing the cars that I'm fortunate enough to get to own with people. So I appreciate all y'all being here this morning and your interest. And one other thing I would say about this is it's on rain tires right now. Pirelli makes these tires for this car. So it doesn't go in any other car. The compounds, everything is derived for this car. They did testing in a couple of the races, a couple of the events that I went to. Ferrari has a test mule of this car that, by the way, somebody just paid $5 million for it. And I've got pictures of it if anybody wants to see it. It just says P3 on it. It doesn't even have a flap over there on the on the battery charger side of it. So when Christian, the guy that was driving it, the Ferrari driver was driving it at Jerez, drove it, they put duct tape over that for drag, and he was testing Pirelli tires on that car. So for Daytona is notoriously hard on tires. If any of you guys watched practice last year, there was a Daytona prototype that went airborne and flipped over in practice and went down the front straight on its top. That guy's name is Byron DeVore. I happen to know him. He's a guy that's active in a related way in the business that I'm in. So I happen to know that guy. And I thought, holy cow, that's Byron going upside down. Blew the right rear tire. My challenge coach, Terry Borcheller, has won the 24 in a prototype 2 times on the team he was on. And Terry's told me that Daytona is notoriously hard because of the 31-degree bank and the loading on the car. So Pirelli built tires for the F1 cars and all of the XX cars, especially just for this event